Welcome to Practice What You Teach this week. Julie, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I am a registered play therapist, a parent coach, and a therapist supervisor.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I work in a private practice, and I work with children 3 years old to 22, their parents, and I teach new therapists how to be therapists.
That's exciting. That's a lot of different things that you've got going on.
I like different things. I get bored easily, so
Keep you
I like
busy.
different things.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
how did you kind of find your space doing this? How did you kind of come into this work?
When I was in high school, I wanted to be a psychologist. I started working with the kids that were in special ed classrooms. And then after that, I went to be a teacher, and I was a teacher for 15 years at a Montessori school. And then in the Montessori school, they gave me the kids that nobody else liked. And those are still my favorite kids now. And so I was like, I can't help these kids in the way I want to. So one of the parents was a therapist, and she went to UNCC. And then I met Phyllis Post, who's the head of the play therapy program at UNCC. And she helped me to, figure out what I wanted to do. And so I went back to school in 2015, no, 2005, I'm sorry, and decided to get my school counseling degree. And that just kind of happened.
Yeah. And so you've been doing play therapy ever since and
Yep.
working with parents.
And working with parents. Yep. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you feel like now? What do you feel like is kind of like one of the big things that like motivates you to continue doing this kind of work?
That everybody can always learn something new, that
Mm,
it's never too late. And I like to work on let's get them early. So
yeah.
even though it's never too late, I like working with kids because, they're willing to learn, and parents are willing to learn how to be able to take care of their kids. I'm a parent myself. I have two young adult children, and, I have that experience as well. And I didn't know what I didn't know. So I'd like to help parents learn what they didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I love that kind of that idea that like we always have something to learn. There's always something, there's so much that we don't know. There's always something new. And so wanting to kind of create that space to be able to help people.
mhm.
So what is like a tool, a skill, a strategy that you teach the people that you work with that like maybe as a parent you've used yourself in your own life?
I thought about that for a while. And there are some rules of thumb that I learned in child parent relationship training, which is something that I utilize with parents and children. And I use myself, and it doesn't even have to be with just children. It can be with just people in general. Like if you are working with somebody who is overstimulated or they're upset, don't go where they are. So be the thermostat, not the thermometer. Don't take the temperature, like regulate that person, hold that space for that person. So that's one of the little things that I try to do. I try to breathe and then just hold that space for them. And you could do that. And that's what I teach parents to do, as well as teach kids to do with parents, because sometimes, your parent gets dysregulated as well.
Yeah.
So that's one of them. I'm aware that a lot of people like to talk, and parents like to talk, and I do too. Obviously, I'm doing that now. If you can't say it in 10 words or less, don't say it. Some people go on and on and on and on, and you might hear the first couple words and then you don't hear anything of it else. So just say it in a short amount of time. If you don't, then maybe you need to reword it and figure it out.
Yeah.
So
It sounds like being very maybe more intentional about your message.
yeah, and a lot of these little things, I mean, taking a breath and stopping, and then think about one of these little rules of thumb is what they're called. And
Mhm.
just think about what fits there. Like another one is don't try to change everything at once. As a parent, your kid's room is a mess, their grades are bad, they are doing this and they're doing that. Do one thing at a time, because it's going to
Mhm.
be overwhelming to you, it's going to be overwhelming to them. So don't try to change too many things at once. I mean, would you try to change too many things at once in your house?
No, I mean, even in my own, for myself, if I change too many of my own things, it may
Mm-hmm.
last for that day.
Yes. Yeah. So everybody likes routine. Kids like routine. They like structure, even though they tell you they don't. But they do. And so if you change one thing, that's not going to be that big of a deal. But if you go ahead and you change the whole house around, or you decide to change the trip at the last minute, like don't do all these things at one time.
Yeah. And it's hard to know what works, right? If so many things are changing at once, it's hard to know what was the one or two things that was actually effective change versus it could have worked either way.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I tell the parents and I tell the kids that too. And I tell the therapist that I work with that, you've got to just do a little bit at a time. Don't try to do too many things at a time.
Yeah.
So let me see. Another one from the list is the parents' toes should follow their nose. This goes with just being able to communicate effectively with other people. As we're talking right now, I'm looking at you. As people talk to each other, they look at each other. As a parent talks to the child, they don't say, yeah, 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 because if they're doing something else and they're not looking at their child, they may not be really listening. But if you're looking at somebody, your whole body should be facing that person so that they know you're engaged. So that works with children as well as adults and even in any other communication situation.
I was going to say, I imagine that regardless of who you're communicating with, when you're kind of like making that eye contact, you're showing that like nothing else is really kind of stealing the focus away. It also kind of communicates maybe that there's like a desire to understand what's being said.
Mm-hmm. And all these rules of thumb really are to let the child or the person you're talking to understand that you are actually there.
Mm-hmm.
You're holding the space for them. I did teach this to some therapists that work with adults, and they said this is just great communication skills.
Oh, yeah.
So just basic skills that you can do. This one, I really like this one. When a child is drowning, don't teach her to swim. When somebody's in the middle of a meltdown, when somebody's in the middle of an argument with you, don't try to give them the facts of why they're wrong or what they should do differently.
Mm-hmm.
They don't hear it.
Right, right. That's not a time to learn.
No, it's not a time to learn. And so many people, parents, employers, spouses, whatever, do this because the other person is so upset and they're like, well, if you had just done this, then this and this and this. That's not what that person needs. The person needs you to be that thermostat as opposed to the thermometer. Just hold the space for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are just a few of the child-parent relationship, person relationship, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The rules of thumb.
So of these rules of thumbs that you've kind of shared so far, what's like one that you feel like is the most present on your mind when you're just talking with people in your own life? What's the one that you feel like just kind of comes maybe the most naturally, or you just kind of feel shows up the most?
You can't give away what you don't possess.
Mm.
You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to put your oxygen mask on before you can put the oxygen mask on the child. You've got to take care of yourself. And I tell this to parents all the time.
Mm.
And I've learned this in my life. I've had some times where I did not take care of myself, and you need to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else. It's not selfish, it's self-care.
Yeah.
So whether that's saying no to something, or whether it's saying yes to something, or whether it's making sure you get up and you go for a walk, so taking care of yourself, self-care, filling your own bucket, however you want to say it. If you have it to give, you can give it. But if you don't have it to give, you're not going to help anybody. So yeah, if you can't give away what you do not possess is the biggest one that I've learned personally. And that's one thing I tell a lot of people.
Yeah. Do you have like a trick or a strategy for kind of like reminding yourself of that in some of those moments, or maybe kind of like doing like a quick like self-check on, oop, am I trying to give what I don't have here?
Well, when I start to realize I'm getting anxious, or if I start to realize I'm getting a little cranky, like I'm aware that using a lot of these skills, I used to be a yeller. And I do not do that. I've probably yelled once in the past 5 years.
Wow.
And so I'm aware that I'm more aware of my emotions and I'm more aware of how they feel. And so when I'm starting to feel cranky, when I haven't eaten, when I am not in my routine, um,
Mhm.
I start to realize, and that's when I've got to do, okay, do I need to eat something for myself? Do I need to go for a walk? Because exercise is extremely important.
Oh yeah.
Do I need some time to myself? Do I need to tell my kids or my friends or something? I need some time to myself. I've got to fill my bucket. So when I'm starting to just feel not myself, I've got to say, okay, I got to take care of myself.
Mhm.
And sometimes it doesn't always work. And then I get to, maybe a little bit of a, I don't know, not an emotional moment. And then I stop and I think, okay, and I look back and I go, this and this and this and this happened. Oh yeah, my bucket is not full. I've got to fill it up. I've got to do some self-care.
Mhm.
So those are some things that I've noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of being able to kind of check back on it. But it also seems like becoming more familiar with maybe how that empty bucket looks,
Mm-hmm.
how it kind of shows up.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you can better recognize, oh, I need to hit the pause button here and fill back up first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Yeah. And it seems like being able to also kind of be aware of like what are maybe the like the more common kind of like pitfalls in terms of like, have I not eaten yet today? Have I not moved around? Is my body feeling kind of stiff? Am I feeling like that sense of like urgency because I've got a lot of stuff that I need to feel like has to be done right now? But being able to maybe kind of recognize like what are some of those things that show up the most, and trying to make sure that we are addressing those like vulnerabilities.
Yes, because like if somebody has taken or I have given more than I have to give, I've got to replenish that.
Yeah.
If I have worked too many hours, if I've said yes to too many things, I start to feel that physically and mentally. And so I've got to start to pull back, and because I will be vulnerable and I'll be more apt to be triggered by something little. And so I have to pull back and go, okay, my bucket's getting empty. Oh, right, I didn't exercise yesterday. Oh, right, I haven't eaten as well as I usually do. I didn't sleep good because a dog decided to get me up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Those little things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to see if you have it to give.
Yeah. So if someone wanted to learn more about kind of these rules of thumb or more about what some of the other rules are, how could they do that?
Well, they could learn about child-parent relationship training with Gary Landreth. They could read about child-centered play therapy.
Mhm.
All of these things are readily available online. Um, there's a book, child-parent relationship training book.
Mhm.
We could teach them.
Yeah.
There are a lot of different things.
Yeah. And I can put links to some of that stuff down in the video description so people can find it.
Oh, that'd be great.
If they want to get in touch with you and maybe kind of learn more about the services you offer, or maybe get connected for some play therapy or parent training, like how do they get in touch with you?
Healing Works Counseling is where I'm at right now. And they can email me or they can call the number that I know you'll put in the link. I like to help a lot of people. I like new therapists who are coming into the field. Anybody who's interested in therapy, anybody can reach out to me and send me an email, and I will, if I can't help them, I can try to send them to somebody that can help them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, such a good resource, it seems like, for lots of different things.
I have a couple resources. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time. I think this is something that definitely kind of resonates, and something that I think, I'm going to be thinking about just in terms of like, am I giving more than I have to give right now? And it seems like that's one of those like small things don't have to change too much at once. That's kind of maybe a small thing to kind of maybe try to be more mindful of just in conversations as things come up. So I learned a lot. Thank you so much for sharing. And I, hope that people can kind of find ways to implement this themselves too, because it could be really helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's extremely helpful. Just be mindful of yourself and take care of yourself. You're not being selfish.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you.